Hey Reddit. Throwaway account here because my soon-to-be ex and her friends know my main. I've read so many stories like this and always thought, man, that's rough, but that'll never be me. Joke's on me, I guess. Now I'm the one sitting in my half-empty house, drinking cold coffee at 2 a.m., writing this out like some therapy session I didn't sign up for. My story ends with the words, wife cheated with her tattoo artist, so I got them arrested, won custody. But we're not there yet. Let's rewind. I, 35M, have been married to Amy, 33F, for just over 9 years. We met at a mutual friend's house party. She was this artsy, quirky girl with pink hair and a laugh that echoed. I was the quiet guy with calloused hands and a stable job in Hvac. Somehow, we clicked. Polar opposites, but we made it work. At least, I thought we did. We got married after 2 years, bought a modest house, had 2 amazing kids. I was happy. Or maybe I just told myself I was. The cracks started showing maybe a year and a half ago. Nothing huge at first, just little things. Amy started dressing differently. She used to wear oversized sweaters and jeans, but now it was leather jackets, crop tops, skin-hugging jeans. Her hair changed constantly, blonde 1 month, black the next. She said it was part of her creative rebirth. I laughed and told her I liked it. And I did, at first. Then came the tattoos. Not just getting them, she became obsessed with tattoo culture. Started hanging out at local parlors, sketching designs, following artists online. She'd talk about needles and ink and shading techniques like it was a religion. I thought it was just a hobby, something to keep her inspired. I was proud of her. I even let her convince me to get her initials tattooed on my arm. It's permanent love, she said. I remember how she smiled when the needle started. That smile still haunts me. Soon after, she became distant. Not overnight, but gradually. She was always on her phone, texting someone, giggling at random messages. She started hiding the screen from me. Her passwords changed. She locked her phone even at home, which was weird. She used to be an open book. When I asked, she'd snap. God, you're being so controlling. I'm allowed to have privacy. Our conversations became clipped. Short answers. No more late-night talks or goofy arguments about which movie to watch. And the sex? Gone. I'm just tired. The kids wore me out. Maybe tomorrow. It turned into months of maybe tomorrow. I thought maybe it was me. Maybe I let myself go. I started going to the gym again, cooking more, trying to bring some spark back. But no matter what I did, she seemed more annoyed by me than interested. She stayed out late more often, always with the same excuse, I'm meeting a client at the cafe. Sometimes she wouldn't come home until 1 a.m., reeking of cologne that wasn't mine. Still, I didn't want to believe it. I gave her the benefit of the doubt. Because that's what you do when you love someone. You trust them. Even when it feels like swallowing glass. But that trust, it shattered one night. I found out what she was really doing during those client meetings. And it wasn't Photoshop work. Next part gets ugly. It was a Thursday night, nothing special. The kids were at my sister's place for a sleepover, so I figured Amy and I could actually spend some time together, watch a movie, talk, maybe try to reconnect. She barely looked up from her phone when I brought it up. I've got a client meeting, she muttered, already halfway out the door with her sketchbook and that damn leather jacket. Something in me snapped. I don't know how to explain it, but my gut screamed at me, louder than ever before. I wasn't the suspicious type, never had been. But this time, I couldn't ignore it. She left around 7:30 p.m. Said she was going to a Soul Bean Cafe on 5th. I waited 15 minutes, grabbed my keys, and followed. I parked across from the cafe and waited. No Amy. An hour went by. I texted her, how's the meeting going? She replied instantly, just started. Might be a long one. Another lie. I waited until 9:30 p.m. before driving back home. But I didn't go inside. I parked down the street and waited again. Sure enough, at around 10 p.m., a car pulled into our driveway. Not her car. A black Jeep with loud exhaust. And then she got out, laughing. The kind of laugh she hadn't given me in a year. Her hand was wrapped around the wrist of some dude covered in ink, wearing a sleeveless tee like he was starring in a budget action movie. I sat frozen in my car, heart pounding. I felt like throwing up. They went into our house. My house. 10 minutes later, the upstairs light turned on. I didn't sleep that night. I just drove around town like a ghost, eventually crashing on the recliner in my garage. The next morning, I acted like nothing was wrong. Got the kids, made breakfast, even kissed her on the cheek. She pulled away like my touch burned her. Later that day, I did some digging. I started with the guy, took a mental snapshot of his tattoos and did a reverse image search. Took a bit of scrolling, but there he was, Zane, local tattoo artist, owner of Inkspire Studio. Tons of selfies with girls, half-naked clients, and in one recent post, Amy's sketchbook on his table. Caption: love working with this talented queen again. Again. That word hit me like a truck. The next night, I set a trap. I told Amy I was going to help my brother move furniture across town and that I'd be out late. She barely looked up. Okay. Don't wait up. Her eyes lit up like I'd just handed her a hall pass. I kissed the kids goodnight, said goodbye, and drove around the block. I parked in the same spot as before, phone in hand, camera ready. At exactly 8:15 p.m., Zane's Jeep rolled in again. This time, I didn't just watch. I filmed it all. Every laugh, every kiss on our porch, the way she pulled him by the hand into their house. And later, the lights upstairs flickering on again. My hands were shaking the whole time, but I kept the camera steady. I needed proof. Because I wasn't just going to confront her, I was going to burn her whole lie to the ground. I didn't sleep that night either. I sat in my garage again, watching that shaky video over and over, like I needed to punish myself just a little more. Every frame felt like a punch to the gut. Her smile. Her laugh. The way she leaned into him like he was home. That wasn't some fling. That wasn't just a mistake. That was a full-blown affair. I had two choices, explode or plan. And I chose to plan. The next morning, Amy acted like she'd just returned from a spa weekend. Hair wet, glowing, humming in the kitchen like she didn't spend the night cheating in our bed. She even made pancakes for the kids, something she hadn't done in weeks. I stared at her from across the table, wondering if she had any shame left at all. If she even cared. I waited until Monday. Kids were at school. She was in the dining room, doodling in her sketchbook like she had no idea the guillotine was about to drop. I sat down across from her, placed my phone on the table, and hit play. The footage played for maybe 10 seconds before she shoved the sketchbook closed and went pale. Zane's Jeep. Them kissing. Her giggling like a damn teenager. I didn't say a word. I just looked at her. You followed me, she hissed, her voice sharp. Try again, I said. I caught you. She stood up fast, knocking the chair over. You invaded my privacy. I laughed. Actually laughed. Privacy? You brought another man into my house. Into our bed. With our kids sleeping down the hall. She crossed her arms, defiant. It's not what you think. There it was. The classic line. It's not what you think. As if that video was CGI. As if I imagined everything. She couldn't even keep eye contact. Then came the gaslighting. You haven't made me feel loved in years. You're always working. You never understood my art, my passions, Zane does. I just stared. I'd worked 2 jobs at one point to support her staying home with the kids. I paid for her online classes, bought her that expensive drawing tablet she wanted, even took her to expos she begged to attend. And now I wasn't supportive enough. Then she threw in the dagger. Maybe if you'd been more of a man, I wouldn't have needed someone like Zane. I felt my blood boil. But I stayed calm. I'm filing for divorce, I said quietly. And I'm going for full custody. She laughed in my face. Good luck. No court's going to hand the kids to a guy who lives in his garage and records his wife like a creep. That's when I smiled. I wasn't just recording. I've been talking to a lawyer. And a friend of mine, he works in law enforcement. Did you know your buddy Zane has a record? Her face froze. You're lying. Nope. DUI, drug possession, and you've been letting him around our kids. In my house. I have everything I need to show the judge you're reckless and unfit. She didn't say another word. I picked up my phone, walked to the door, and said one last thing. Start packing. The next couple of days were a blur of quiet planning and emotional whiplash. Amy barely spoke to me, mostly sulked around the house when she wasn't locked in the bedroom on her phone. I could hear her whispering in the bathroom, pacing in the hallway, crying one minute and snapping at the kids the next. The image she used to project, carefree, artsy, devoted mother, was unraveling right in front of me. I stayed focused. My buddy Chris, who works in the county sheriff's office, came through big time. He ran Zane's name for me and confirmed what I already suspected: the guy had a rap sheet. Nothing major, but it painted a picture. DUI from 5 years ago, possession of narcotics 3 times, and currently under investigation for possible distribution. Amy had no clue. Or maybe she did and just didn't care. Here's where it gets interesting. Turns out, Zane wasn't just dating my wife. He was also using his shop as a front for selling pills. Chris couldn't go into too much detail, but he said, if he's hanging around your house and your kids are present, and there's even a whiff of drugs, CPS is going to take it seriously. That's all I needed to hear. I handed over the footage, every kiss, every entry into my house, all time-stamped. I also gave him texts I later recovered from our shared iCloud backup. Amy wasn't smart enough to delete everything on her side. Messages about meeting after the kids fall asleep, and even one where Zane joked, I could tattoo you with one hand while holding your husband's beer with the other. Yeah, classy guy. Within a week, everything blew up. The police raided Zane's studio based on multiple tips, mine included. Amy wasn't there at the time, but apparently, they found enough to hold him. Pills, unregistered cash, even some shady paraphernalia tucked in the back room. His bail got denied. Amy visited him in jail the next day. I know because I was sent a photo of her crying outside the courthouse like some grieving widow. Meanwhile, I was at my lawyer's office, prepping for the custody hearing. I didn't want to be the guy who rips kids away from their mother. But Amy wasn't the woman she used to be. And this wasn't just about cheating anymore. This was about protecting my kids from a woman who thought it was okay to parade a criminal in front of them and lie about it with a straight face. My lawyer was a shark. She said, with this footage, the arrest, the drug connection, and the fact that she exposed the children to all of it, you're not just likely to get custody, you're almost guaranteed. We filed emergency custody paperwork the next morning. Amy was served while she was out getting groceries. She came home screaming, flinging papers across the living room, calling me a monster, a manipulator, a fake. I didn't engage. I stayed calm. That's what wins in court, not yelling, not emotion. Cold, hard proof. She thought the affair would blow over. She never expected jail time and a custody battle. I guess when you tattoo betrayal on your life, the ink doesn't wash off easy. By the time the custody hearing date rolled around, Amy was a shadow of the woman she once was, though I use the word woman loosely. More like a chaotic storm in designer boots. She tried to play the role of the misunderstood mother who just needed support, but behind the eyeliner and fake tears, she was falling apart. I stayed calm. My lawyer coached me well: stick to facts, not feelings. Let her lose control. And lose it she did. The day of the hearing, she strutted in with this smug little smirk like she was going to outwit the entire legal system. She wore a white blazer like she was auditioning for a courtroom drama. Zayn's arrest had made local news, and she was caught on camera outside the jail, but she swore up and down it was a misunderstanding and that she had no idea what he was involved in. Yeah, sure. That's why you were texting him about next time don't bring the bag to their house. My lawyer presented the video footage, the texts, and witness statements, including from my neighbor, who testified that she saw Zayn's Jeep parked outside our house several times a week while I was supposedly out of town for work. Amy's face was priceless. Pale. Shaky. She had no comeback. Just muttered something about how unfair this is and started crying. Then came the kicker. CPS had done a surprise visit 2 days after the raid. Found her passed out on the couch, reeking of alcohol, the kids watching YouTube on the TV with no supervision. She tried to claim she was just tired, but the social worker's report was damning. Their home environment appeared unstable, with emotional volatility from the mother and signs of neglectful supervision. Her lawyer tried damage control, pushing for shared custody, claiming it was an isolated incident, that Mrs. Redacted has been under extreme stress due to the separation and false accusations against her partner. False accusations. I nearly laughed. But I let my lawyer do her thing. She calmly pointed out that Zayn's arrest was not only real, but the charges had since escalated. Turns out, he was running more than pills, he had a full list of controlled substances tied to his business. And Amy, who was just sketching there, was found in multiple photos behind the counter. Not once, not twice, 6 times. The judge didn't look impressed. By the end of the hearing, temporary sole custody was granted to me, pending a full evaluation. Amy could have supervised visitation if she completed a court-ordered drug screening, parenting class, and therapy. She screamed in court. Actually screamed. "You're ruining my life," she shrieked at me in front of the judge. "You're a vindictive little man." The judge banged the gavel and warned her, "One more outburst, and I'll hold you in contempt." She stormed out crying, knocking over a chair on her way. All I could think was, this is the mother of my children. I walked out of that courtroom with mixed emotions. Relief. Sadness. A bit of guilt, because despite everything, I never wanted it to come to this. But also a quiet, solid sense of pride. I fought for my kids. And I was winning. After the hearing, things didn't calm down, they escalated. Amy was humiliated, and when someone like her loses control, they don't reflect, they lash out. Hard. It started with the texts. Long paragraphs sent at 2 a.m., full of contradictions. One message would beg me to reconsider, to think of the family we built. The next would accuse me of turning the kids against her. Then she'd send selfies of her crying, followed by rage-fueled rants. "You never loved me. You just wanted a maid and a babysitter." She called me a narcissist, a manipulator, a coward. I didn't respond. I kept every message, though. Screenshots. Date stamps. My lawyer told me to build a case, and Amy was giving me more ammo than I could have hoped for. Then she switched tactics. She started playing the victim, publicly. Suddenly, her Instagram, which she hadn't posted on in months, was filled with cryptic quotes and emotional captions. "Healing in silence after betrayal," one read. Another had a black and white photo of her holding our kids, posted from before the custody hearing, with the caption, "They stole everything from me. But I'll keep fighting." Comments rolled in from her friends, "You're so strong. You deserve happiness. He never appreciated you." One even said, "You should go for full custody. Don't let him win." She was rewriting history in real time, and it made me sick. Half those people she was crying to had been in our house when she was sneaking around with Zayn, acting like everything was fine. Now they were her emotional cheerleaders. But the biggest twist came a week after the hearing. It was a Saturday morning. The kids were watching cartoons. I was in the kitchen flipping pancakes when there was a knock at the door. I opened it, expecting a delivery. Instead, I found a woman, maybe early 30s, blonde, anxious eyes, clutching a small purse like it was a shield. "You don't know me," she said. "But I know Zane. I used to date him." My stomach tightened. She introduced herself as Lena, and I let her in, cautiously. We sat at the dining table while the kids stayed glued to the TV. She didn't waste time. I saw Amy's name mentioned in a group chat. People are talking. "I wanted to warn you." Turns out Lena had dated Zane for over a year before he got involved with Amy. She left him after she caught him stealing from her money, pills, even a few of her dad's prescription bottles. But it got darker. He had a habit of using women to get close to their homes. She said she suspected he used her place to stash product and once even used her garage for a quick deal. But the bombshell. "I think Amy knew," she whispered. "He always bragged about how easy it was to manipulate people. He told me once, if you can get her to open her legs, you can get her to open her house." I felt physically ill. Lena wasn't there for drama. She gave me a written statement. Said she was willing to speak to the court if it helped keep the kids safe. She'd already spoken to the police once when Zane got arrested, but they hadn't followed up yet. I thanked her. Honestly, I didn't know what else to say. She nodded, stood up, and left just as quietly as she came in. I looked over at my kids, giggling over cartoon dinosaurs, and I realized just how deep the hole had gone. Amy didn't just betray me. She brought a predator into our home. After Lena left, I sat in the kitchen for almost an hour, staring at the piece of paper she gave me. Her statement was handwritten, about 2 pages long. Neatly written, calm tone, but filled with disturbing details about Zane, how he used women, how he stored drugs in places they didn't even realize, how he had a history of twisting stories when things went south. I called my lawyer and gave her everything. She was stunned. "This might be the nail in the coffin," she said. "This shows not only that Amy made reckless choices but that she knew what kind of man Zane was. That's what really mattered, proving Amy wasn't just naive but willfully negligent." Within 72 hours, my lawyer submitted Lena's signed statement to both the court and CPS. The officer handling Zane's case followed up with Lena. She confirmed everything. It wasn't just gossip anymore. It was testimony. And CPS took it seriously. They reopened their investigation into Amy, this time with far more scrutiny. That's when Amy really started unraveling. I think she knew things were slipping out of her hands, and instead of trying to fix anything, she doubled down. She showed up unannounced at my house one evening, unhinged. She was standing at the door in sweats, no makeup, shaking and red-eyed. "You think you're so righteous," she spat the moment I opened the door. "You think turning everyone against me makes you a better parent." I stepped outside and closed the door behind me. "You need to leave. Now." She shoved a folder at me. "Read it. I'm filing for joint custody. And I'm getting character witnesses. Zane's lawyer says they're dropping half the charges. He's not who you think, he's a good man." I couldn't help but stare at her like she was possessed. "He's a drug dealer, Amy." "Alleged," she hissed. I looked her straight in the eye and said, "He's a criminal, and you knew. You let him near our children." Her face twisted into something feral. "You're just bitter I moved on. You couldn't satisfy me, so I found someone who could." There it was. The mask fully off. I didn't reply. I turned and walked inside, locking the door as her fists pounded once, then silence. I called my lawyer again. She came by. "She's losing it. I think she might try something desperate." She filed a no-contact motion the next day. 2 days after that, I got a call from the school counselor. Amy had shown up at school without approval, trying to talk to our oldest during lunch. She'd told the staff she just wanted to explain her side. They asked her to leave immediately and flagged it to me. That was it. CPS fast-tracked the custody review. Amy's visit to the school became part of the final custody hearing packet, alongside the footage, Lena's testimony, and the drug raid results. I wasn't just fighting to win anymore, I was fighting to protect. Because Amy wasn't just unstable. She was dangerous. The final custody hearing came quicker than expected. CPS had moved things up, citing compelling evidence and escalating concern for child welfare. My lawyer told me it was rare for them to act this quickly, which honestly said more about Amy's behavior than anything else. When the state moves fast, it's usually because the risk is real. That morning, I dropped the kids off with my sister. They didn't know what was happening, not exactly. I kept it simple: Daddy has to go to a meeting, but I'll be back before dinner. My daughter smiled and asked if we could stop for ice cream later. That nearly broke me. If Amy won this case, I didn't know what access I'd have to my kids going forward. This might have been our last regular moment together. Court felt different this time. Bigger. Heavier. Amy showed up late, looking rattled, makeup caked on like war paint. She had a new lawyer, some slick-talking guy with an expensive suit and a Bluetooth earpiece still in his ear. They walked in like they were about to sue Netflix. My lawyer leaned over and whispered, his loud. "But we've got proof." The judge entered. Same one from before. Stern. Sharp-eyed. Didn't like theatrics. That would work in our favor. Amy's side went first. Her lawyer rambled on about how she was a devoted mother unfairly painted as negligent, and that the accusations stemmed from a bitter divorce, not actual concern. He blamed me for spying, weaponizing surveillance, and manipulating third parties to build a case against a woman who was simply trying to heal and rebuild. It was a performance. He even tried to discredit Lena, saying she had a personal vendetta against Zane. Then Amy took the stand. She cried. She twisted timelines. Said she and Zane only started talking seriously after we separated. Claimed I'd been emotionally abusive, controlling, cold. She sobbed when talking about the kids, saying they were her entire world and that taking them away was killing her slowly. It was nauseating to watch. Then it was my turn. My lawyer didn't go for drama. She went for truth. We presented everything: the video footage, text messages, Lena's signed testimony, police records, the raid results, CPS reports, and the school incident. The judge took notes during all of it. When I spoke, I didn't cry. I didn't accuse. I just told the truth. I didn't want this, I said. I didn't set out to destroy their mother. But I will do whatever it takes to protect my kids. I've stayed calm. I followed every legal route. I never kept them from her. But she made choices that endangered our children. I'm not punishing her. I'm protecting them. There was a pause in the room that felt like forever. The judge looked at Amy, then at me, then back at the papers in front of her. She spoke quietly, but with finality. I am awarding full legal and physical custody to the father. The mother may have supervised visitation pending compliance with all court orders, including counseling, drug screening, and parenting classes. Amy didn't even react at first. She just blinked. Then her lip quivered. Then she screamed. No. No. He brainwashed them. You can't do this to me. The bailiff had to escort her out. I stood there, frozen. The courtroom emptied around me. I'd won. But it didn't feel like victory. It felt like survival. Winning custody wasn't the end of the battle, it just changed the battlefield. The first few days after the hearing felt strangely quiet. Like that eerie calm after a storm has ripped through your neighborhood. The walls are still standing, but everything inside feels different. The kids came home with me for good, and I did everything I could to make it feel normal. Cartoons in the morning, pancakes on Saturday, nightly bedtime stories. But even they sensed something had shifted. My son asked, "When's mommy coming back?" I didn't have an answer that wouldn't break his heart. Amy was ordered to stay away until she completed her required steps, counseling, parenting classes, and drug screening. She didn't take it well. Within a week, she was sending emails to the court begging for reconsideration, claiming she was being unfairly punished for loving the wrong person. When that didn't work, she turned to social media again. She posted a photo of our daughter from 2 years ago, one I had taken, captioned, "Fighting every day to be with my babies. They need their mother. #family court failure." She never mentioned Zayn. Not once. It's like he'd vanished from the narrative entirely. Just another lie stacked on the others. Her friends began reaching out. Some messaged me directly, accusing me of lying to the court, manipulating evidence, even emotionally abusing a free spirit. I didn't respond. I didn't owe them a damn thing. I blocked every single one of them. Zayn, meanwhile, stayed locked up. More charges came down: distribution, tax fraud, possession with intent to distribute. Lena's testimony ended up being a huge part of the case against him. She thanked me once, privately. "I hope your kids grow up safe and happy," she wrote. I hope so too. As for Amy, she failed her first drug test. She claimed it was a false positive from cold medicine. The court wasn't buying it. She missed her first parenting class and rescheduled therapy twice. Her supervised visitation was pushed back again. I stopped telling the kids when they might see her, it was too confusing for them. There was a moment, about a month after the ruling, when she left a voicemail. I listened to it once. Her voice was soft, almost whispering. "I know I messed up, but you didn't have to take everything. I'm still their mother. They still love me." She didn't cry. She didn't apologize. Just said that last line like it was a warning. Or a threat. I saved the message, just in case. People assume that once you win custody, the nightmare ends. But what they don't tell you is how much damage still lingers, inside your head, your routines, your trust. I don't date. I barely sleep. Every time I drop the kids off at school, I check over my shoulder, half expecting Amy to show up again. But we're healing. Slowly. My daughter smiles more now. My son sleeps through the night. And for the first time in years, the house feels like home again. Things had been stable for maybe 2 months. Their house had a rhythm again, me getting the kids up for school, helping with homework, Friday night pizza, Saturday park visits. It wasn't perfect, but it was peaceful. I was starting to believe we were finally out of the woods. Then Amy struck again. It was a Wednesday afternoon. I was at work when I got a call from my sister, who was watching the kids. She sounded panicked. She came to the school, she said. "Amy. She picked them up early." My heart stopped. "What do you mean she picked them up? How?" Apparently, Amy had gone to the school during lunch hour and told the front desk she had an approved emergency pickup. She forged a note, copied my signature, and convinced the substitute receptionist she had temporary permission. My sister arrived 15 minutes later for regular pickup, and the kids were already gone. I called the police. I called the school. I called my lawyer. I was shaking so hard I could barely hold the phone. Every nightmare scenario played out in my head. What if she left the state? What if she took them to Zayn's family? What if she hurt them just to spite me? Luckily, my daughter had a smartwatch with Bort to help her call if she ever got scared. I pinged the GPS, it was tracking near a public park about 20 minutes away. I drove like a man possessed. When I got there, I saw Amy sitting on a bench with both kids, casually handing out juice boxes like it was a family picnic. She didn't even look guilty. My son ran up and hugged me. "Daddy. Mommy surprised us." Amy stood up, arms crossed, smug as hell. "They are my kids too, you know." I didn't yell. I didn't cause a scene. I told the kids we were going to get ice cream and asked them to go wait in the car. They did. Then I turned to her and said just one word. "Police." She laughed at first, until the cruisers showed up 10 minutes later. She was arrested on the spot for violating the court order, forgery, and custodial interference. She screamed the whole time, accusing me of brainwashing the kids, calling the officers pigs, and swearing that this wasn't over. The whole park stared. Parents covered their children's ears. Back at the station, I gave my statement. My lawyer filed for an emergency hearing the next day. The judge didn't hesitate, all visitation was suspended indefinitely. Amy would now need a court-approved monitor present at all times, and the court made it clear that any further incidents would result in permanent termination of parental rights. I thought I'd feel relief. Instead, I felt sick. The kids were quiet that night. My daughter asked if mommy was going to jail forever. My son cried in his sleep. I hated her for what she did. Not just to me, but to them. This wasn't just betrayal anymore. This was poison. And I was done pretending she was anything but toxic. The day after Amy was arrested for taking the kids, my phone didn't stop buzzing. First it was the school, apologizing profusely for their procedural oversight. Then my lawyer, confirming the judge had signed the emergency order. Then CPS. Then a detective wanting to ask more questions about Amy's mental health. It felt like everyone suddenly woke up and realized, oh, this woman is unhinged. Amy spent 2 nights in county jail before her parents bailed her out. They hadn't been involved much up to that point, always playing the neutral card. But after the arrest, they showed up at my door, pale and shaken, asking if they could see the kids. I said no. Not until the court sorted out visitation. They didn't argue. I don't know what's wrong with her, her mother whispered before they left. This isn't the daughter we raised. I didn't tell her what her daughter had become. I figured she already knew. Amy didn't post on social media for the next week. Her Instagram went dark. Her so-called friends stopped tagging her in their supportive quotes. That's how it works, I guess. Ride the victim wave until it crashes into reality. A few of her old art clients even reached out to me, saying they'd like to distance themselves from her work and wished the kids well. I didn't respond to any of them. Legally, the consequences hit hard. Forgery. Violation of a custody order. Attempted abduction. That's how the prosecutor framed it. Amy's lawyer tried to downplay everything, a stressed mother having an emotional moment. But the judge didn't buy it. She was slapped with 6 months probation, mandatory weekly therapy, and barred from being within 500 feet of the school or my home without written consent. Her visitations were cut to 0 pending a psychological evaluation. That part hit her the hardest. For the first time, the consequences weren't just court orders, they were visible. Amy wasn't allowed near the kids. Not even a video call. My lawyer said would keep it that way for as long as necessary. Eventually, the court may push for reintegration, she warned. But not until she proves she's stable. And that might take years. In the meantime, I focused on rebuilding. Slowly. We moved out of the house a few weeks later. Too many bad memories. Too many shadows in the corners. I found a small rental with a fenced backyard, closer to my sister's place and the kids' school. It wasn't fancy, but it was warm. Safe. I enrolled the kids in counseling. Just simple, gentle check-ins. My daughter started drawing again. My son laughed more. I started breathing again. We didn't talk about Amy much. When the kids asked, I gave them the truth, but gently. Mommy's going through some things. Grown-up problems. But you're safe. I promise. And they believed me. That meant more than any court ruling ever could. It took time, more than I expected, for the house to feel like a home again. Not just because of the move, but because peace wasn't something we were used to. The kids would flinch when someone knocked on the door. My daughter once woke up in the middle of the night asking if mommy was outside. She said she had a dream that Amy was yelling again, trying to get in. Those moments were the hardest. I'd sit at the edge of her bed, brushing her hair back, whispering, "You're safe. No one's coming. It's just us." Eventually, the fear started to fade. Slowly, like smoke lifting from a burned room. I focused on giving the kids structure. Breakfast together every morning. I packed their lunches with sticky notes inside that had dumb little jokes or heart doodles. We read books before bed. On Sundays, we made pancakes in weird shapes. My son once tried to make a dinosaur, and it ended up looking like a flamingo, but we rolled with it. People stepped up. My sister, her husband, even a few neighbors I barely knew before all this, they became part of our support system. My sister helped with rides, her husband fixed the kitchen sink when it leaked. One of the neighbors, a retired teacher named Mrs. Grayson, started tutoring my daughter in math once a week. She baked cookies every Thursday like clockwork. It reminded me that not everyone disappears when things fall apart. Some people step closer. I started going to therapy myself, something I probably should have done years ago. At first, I didn't know what to say. I just sat there, arms crossed, staring at the carpet. But session by session, I peeled it back. The guilt. The anger. The disbelief. How I'd gone from trusting Amy with everything, to watching her get arrested while our kids cried in the backseat of my car. My therapist said something that stuck: sometimes, the betrayal isn't what breaks you. It's realizing how much you ignored before it happened. She was right. I ignored so much. The phone hiding. The absence. The disrespect. The gaslighting. All because I wanted to believe love meant sticking around, no matter what. But love isn't supposed to make you small. It isn't supposed to make you afraid in your own home. I started writing again, something I hadn't done since college. Not novels or anything, just thoughts. Lessons. Things I'd want my kids to read someday when they were older and asked, why did everything happen the way it did? Because one day, they'll ask. And I won't lie to them. I'll tell them their mother made choices. That love isn't enough without respect. That protecting them wasn't easy, but it was the most important thing I've ever done. That we survived. And then we thrived. And maybe that's how I started to forgive myself, not her, not yet, but me. For staying too long. For trusting too much. For being human. 3 months after Amy's arrest, I got an email from her lawyer. It wasn't a threat this time, or a legal demand. Just a formal request: Amy would like to meet for a monitored, court-approved conversation. No children present. For closure. At first, I laughed. Closure? After everything? After the lies, the manipulation, the emotional wreckage she left behind like a bomb went off in our lives. But my therapist suggested something I didn't expect: if you feel strong enough to hear her out, not for her sake, but for yours, it might help you close that door on your terms. I sat with that for a week. And then, I agreed. The meeting was scheduled in a neutral office space, a family counselor present in the corner, clipboard in hand, eyes on both of us. I walked in, steady but guarded. Amy was already seated. She looked smaller than I remembered, not physically, but like her presence had shrunk. No makeup. Hair tied back. Hands clenched in her lap. She didn't speak at first. Just stared at the table. Then finally, I didn't know how far it would go. I said nothing. I thought I was. I don't know. Reclaiming something. Freedom. Passion. Something I lost in the day-to-day. Still, I stayed quiet. She glanced at me, eyes watery. But I ruined everything. I know that. I leaned forward slightly. You didn't just ruin us, Amy. You endangered our kids. You let a criminal into our home. You chose him over your family, again and again. She nodded. I know. For once, she didn't interrupt. Didn't shift blame. Just listened. I wasn't trying to take them forever, she whispered. I missed them so much I panicked. I wanted to pretend, for one afternoon, that everything was still okay. It wasn't. I know. I watched her as she reached for a tissue, her hands trembling. For a brief moment, I saw the woman I married, the woman I once loved, even through the frustration, the heartbreak. But I wasn't here to mourn her. I was here to say goodbye. I'm not here to fix anything, Amy. I'm here to let go. She nodded slowly. I get it. And I believed her. Not because I trusted her again, I never would, but because I no longer needed her to understand. Her acceptance or apology wasn't what gave me peace. My kids being safe. That was peace. Me finding myself again. That was freedom. I stood up first. She looked like she wanted to say something else but didn't. I turned and walked out of that room, not angry, not broken. Just free. That night, after the kids went to bed, I sat on the porch with a beer in hand and finally allowed myself to breathe. It was over. The war was over. After that final meeting with Amy, something inside me shifted. Not in a big, dramatic way. There wasn't some emotional epiphany or Hollywood-style tearful release. It was subtle. Quiet. Like a stone I'd been unknowingly carrying in my chest finally dissolved. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't bitter. I wasn't anything, except ready. Ready to live again, not just exist. The kids noticed first. I smiled more. I joked with them at breakfast. I started playing music around the house again, actual music, not just the hum of exhaustion and worry. My daughter said, "Daddy, you don't look tired anymore." That one hit me hard. Because she was right. For the first time in years, I felt like I could breathe without checking over my shoulder. I threw myself into being a dad, but this time not just for survival, out of joy. We went hiking on weekends, built blanket forts in the living room, tried baking, emphasis on tried, our cookies came out like rocks. I started volunteering at their school on Fridays. Read books to their first graders. Every time my son saw me at the door, he'd yell, "That's my dad," like I was a superhero. And maybe, in their eyes, I was. I also started doing something for me. I picked up my guitar again. It had collected dust in the back of the closet for years. I started playing at an open mic night once a month, nothing major, just a few acoustic covers and some songs I wrote back in college. It was terrifying and exhilarating. That's where I met Jess. She worked the counter at the cafe where the open mic was held. Not flashy, not loud, just kind. We talked a little after my second performance. Then more after the third. Coffee turned into lunch. Lunch turned into walking her to her car. Nothing forced. No expectations. Just two people being human again. I told her everything early on. The whole mess. I didn't want secrets. She didn't flinch. Just nodded and said, "Sounds like you've already lived through the hard part." She was right. The kids liked her. Not in the mommy replacement way, but in the "can Jess come to the park" way. She never overstepped. Never tried to insert herself. Just listened, showed up, and brought homemade banana bread once that had my son convinced she was a wizard. As for Amy, she eventually completed her parenting classes and passed the psychological evaluation, but visitation remained supervised. She tried to charm the counselor at first. That didn't work. She still plays the victim, still paints herself as the misunderstood mother. But the court saw through it, and so did I. And so did our kids. They are old enough now to notice who shows up and who doesn't. Who lies and who protects. They are thriving. And so am I. It's been a year since that first night, me sitting in my garage, hands shaking, watching the video of my wife kissing another man on our front porch. I remember that guy, the broken version of me. He didn't sleep, didn't eat, didn't know who to trust. He kept thinking, how did I miss the signs? How did I let it get this far? I don't blame him anymore. He was trying his best. But I'm not that man now. Now, I get up each morning to two kids who smile without flinching, who laugh without fear. I make their lunches, tie their shoes, drive them to school with music blasting too loud and windows down. We have dance parties in the living room, movie nights with popcorn everywhere, and a new tradition where we write happy moments on slips of paper and toss them in a jar for New Year's Eve. Peace isn't a destination, it's a choice you make daily. To not let the past control your present. To not give someone who hurt you the power to keep doing it, even from a distance. I still have bad days. Days where I wonder what could have been if Amy had just been honest. Days where I see my kids looking out the window during her no-show visits and feel something sharp in my chest. But those moments pass. They don't control me anymore. And if you're reading this because you're in the thick of it, because your partner cheated, because you're second-guessing your reality, because everything you believed is falling apart, I'll tell you this. You will survive. You will hurt. You will rage. You will cry so hard your ribs ache. You will question your worth, your sanity, your judgment. But you will survive. And if you keep choosing your own healing, even when it's slow, even when it feels impossible, you will thrive. Don't stay for someone who breaks you. Don't make excuses for someone who turns love into a weapon. Protect yourself. Protect your kids. Stand tall, even when you feel like crawling. Because someday, you'll wake up, pour your coffee, hear your child's laughter echo through your new home, and realize you did it. You made it out. You're free. And freedom, my friends, is beautiful.